1521, the explorer Ferdinand Magellan was blown ashore on a chain of 7,000 Pacific islands. He called them the Philippines, to please his king, Philip of Spain. At that time, the islands were home to a vast array of different tribal people. They had led their lives in peace, farming the lowlands and fishing the coral shores. But their ways commanded little respect from the expanding foreign empire. The people's ancestral lands were taken from them and forged into vast estates, and in becoming Filipinos, they came to labor in feudal servitude. Then, as now, the people grew tobacco, pineapples, and sugar, or tried to find their fortunes in the city. Among those who resisted were the Kalinga of the Cordillera Mountains. Adorned with tattoos as a record of their head-hunting prowess, the Kalingas fought subordination. "They are brave, treacherous, and ferocious, and make war to the death," wrote a Spanish officer after attempting to conquer their mountain fortress. Since time immemorial, the Kalingas had defended their ancestral lands. Although their villages lay often within sight of one another, the Mengal, warriors, read the calls of the Ichau bird to decide whether the sing-song omens predicted success in tribal war. In time, the wars became cyclical, feuds. For avenging death was more than a matter of honor. It appeased the spirits of the dead. Failure to perform this, and a host of other ethereal duties, was, and still is, dangerous. Dissatisfied spirits could damage roads, pathways, and terraces. They can make life a misery, or even cause a death within a family, leaving another soul to be sung to its resting place in the Kalinga's grand surroundings. Independent of the Spanish, the Kalingas developed their own rich culture, which included ways of making and keeping peace. Only when it was safe after the settling of a peace pact, making sacrifices, feasting, and laying bygones to rest as bygones, would the Mengal, like Gangang, warn their former enemies through the verses of their paliwats. I
am Gangang from Nassau Blue Town, and I declare that I am the bravest man, for I have killed someone and eaten his liver for Palutan. During our tribal war with Tolgao, I also killed a man. His name was Longdason. On our way home near Madukayan, I met a beautiful young woman. She became my lover, for I had revenged her son.
Kalinga villages act like independent nations. Unless at war with one another, villages may be at truce or hold full trading and diplomatic relations. Then, the peace pact holders, their families or friends, offer food, shelter, and protection to villagers until the moment they leave their lands. In such situations, everyone would help to pound and winnow rice, to fetch and carry their guests some water, because everyone in the village is held responsible for everyone else's behavior. Old men and women can be as valid targets for revenge as hot-headed breakers of a peace pact, so all are bound tightly to their clan. Leaders are those who speak authoritatively, those who know the customs and command the respect of others, but they have no right to force another person to do as they want. Kalinga agreements, negotiated by armed, large-scale delegations, are unanimous and collective. Long, long ago, the people realized that the only solutions that stick are those with which everyone agrees. By contrast, Western democracy gives the majority the power to impose their will on minorities. The Kalingas and other Filipino minorities have discovered this to their cost. Their ancestral land, the dust of their forefathers, has long been viewed as a wilderness, to be exploited for the benefit of a distant, unknown majority. Marcos planned to build 4 dams along the Chico River to submerge Bugnay. The Kalingas, their history, their culture and religion, were to be sacrificed in the name of national progress. They weren't going to accept this passively. Facing a common threat, the Kalingas overcame their differences and were united by words such as these, spoken to an official who asked for proof that the people owned their ancestral land.
You ask us if we own the land, and mock us. Where is our title? When we query the meaning of your words, you answer with haunting arrogance. Where are the documents to prove you own the land? Title, documents, proof. How can you own that which will outlive you? Only the race owns the land, because only the race lives forever. To claim a place is the birthright of every man. The lowly animals claim their place. So how much more does man? To work is an obligation, not merely a right. In tilling the land, you possess it, and so land is a grace that must be nurtured. Land is sacred, land is beloved. From its womb springs a Kalinga life. If the life of a race is threatened, the whole nation will fight to defend the motherland. Your plan means our sure death. To clarify the meaning of our position, we will fight. We would die, but our death would be an honorable one. It will be a long and protracted struggle, but in the end the people will prevail, as our ancestors did against the Spanish, the Americans, and the Japanese.
The protests began peacefully enough. Marcos turned a delegation of Kalinga elders away from his palace because they were wearing G-strings. Another group was told that their president couldn't meet them because he was busy organizing the Miss Universe beauty competition. Inevitably, a number of Kalingas concluded that it may be necessary to resort to force. In 1976, a cadre of 7 communist revolutionaries, members of the New People's Army, entered the highlands. The people were ready to lose life fighting the dams, and so were we, one of their leaders said. It was an obvious alliance. As the people gave the revolutionaries their support, so the manifesto of the regional command came to reflect the views of those who made up its members. The right to ancestral domain and the right to maintain and develop indigenous cultures and political institutions shall be guaranteed. The wisdom and authority of traditional leaders shall be respected, was the unorthodox call. It was a call for stability as much as it was for change. After a long and bitter struggle, the World Bank, who were funding the dams, finally pulled out and the plans were put back on the shelf. The cables powering the gold mines at Batong Bahai were also blown to the ground. For years its owners, generals and Marcos cronies, had dumped 10 tons of tailings into the river per day. Crushed powder fine, the rock had filtered downstream. It had clogged the terraces, suffocated fish, and gave carabao diarrhea. The Kalingas slipped further from government control. Some villagers started growing marijuana. Others declared their sovereignty over the gold in their ancestral lands. They reopened the mines and now walk beneath stalagmites adorning the 60-year-old timbers. They climb down dark 30-meter shafts. They wade through water stained yellow by sulfuric rock. and eventually emerge from the gold-bearing volcano with a trolley full of ore. Crushed by steel rods in a water-powered drum, the ore becomes sludge. It's then washed down a corduroy-lined chute to trap the heavy gold grains. Rinsed out, the cloth's contents are slowly panned until gold appears as a light yellow stain. The irony is that these are teetotaling, God-fearing, and country music-loving communists. Their crime, relaxing round the campfire after coffee and beans, is to make £10 each in 24 hours. That's 4 times as much as workers in the city. But it's also money available to everyone, like students paying for college. Money that's earned without causing pollution. Money earned with technology, controlled by the people, and used by them how they want. The lessons of Kalinga aren't straightforward, and they aren't simple. These aren't peaceful tribesfolk suffering at the hands of multinationals. They are simply a brave, independent people looking after themselves. If they have wound up opposing their government, the World Bank or the West, it isn't because they want to. It's because to grow, our economies need their spirit-filled landscape, wood from their trees, power from their valleys, their minerals and their gold. Whether guitar-playing miners or nose flute-playing militiamen, the Kalingas have no wish for war. All they really want is to grow up, to work, to weave, to harvest their lands, and grow old in peace.